The Baltimore Ravens made a huge decision yesterday by releasing Justin Tucker officially. We talk about Tucker being out and Tyler Loop being the one to take over the reins, as well as the Ravens being under fire for their handling of the situation, and accusers speaking out on the release, as well as Baltimore maybe having a reason why they did this release at the time that they did, and the reasoning behind Eric DeCosta's statement talking about it being a football move. All that and more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I am your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, and we are here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, thanks so much for being here today on this Taco Tuesday, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen each and every day as well. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms. So in video form on YouTube, you can like and subscribe to the channel. In audio form, you can follow along and subscribe as well. We're a 5-day week plus more daily Ravens podcasts. And of course, thank you out there to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners, and the ones who are in the middle of those two. And we have a lot to talk about here today with former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver and Super Bowl champion Qadry Ismail. I was preparing for this episode and, had all my notes written out about 2 p.m. and thinking, hey, I got a lot of stuff to talk about. And then obviously the news breaks. The Ravens officially move on from Justin Tucker. Eric DeCosta releases a statement. And a situation that, we've been tracking and monitoring, obviously with the off-field allegations, but even how he performed last season. A 13-year career for Justin Tucker in a Ravens uniform is done just like that.
It is never surprising to me when a guy gets released. The moment it surprised me was, good God, 30 years ago when Joe Montana was no longer a San Francisco 49er. So no matter how great you think a player is, no matter what the wholesome memories you hold in your heart for said player, it all comes to an end, and it depends on how it comes to an end. In this particular case, I'm talking about Justin Tucker with a mega off-field issue staring in his face. And you're also talking about him coming off a poor season. So the toe, just didn't add up any longer. And I think for the Baltimore Ravens, for Eric DeCosta, this was a move that they just felt they needed to make sooner rather than later. And by the way, toe stands for talent over everything. When Justin Tucker is being Justin Tucker, the toe, it works. When you have the worst season of your career and you can find someone else who's cheaper and has the potential to look somewhat like you, and you have some baggage, well, we're going to have to let you go. And that's exactly what happened.
I know you've mentioned that on the show before. I didn't put it all together, though, TOE. I thought you meant his kicking toe did not add up anymore. But you know what? You adding context makes a lot more sense. But you mentioned it. It's like, he's been with the team for 13 seasons, and he had a bad year this past season. Then the off-field allegations pop up, and just like that, it's over. And I mean, before we kind of get into some of the reasoning and Tyler Loop and that whole situation, obviously Tucker has won them so many big games, and, he won them the Super Bowl his rookie season. He was a part of that team. And, Adam Schefter put out his accolades, 8-time All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowl, all-decade team for 2010. He had the longest field goal in NFL history, highest career field goal percentage in NFL history. He made 417 field goals for Baltimore. But I said this on the live show, I had been building this moment up in my head forever. Justin Tucker, the day he retires or the day he leaves, it's going to be this super sad moment. And like, everyone's going to be like, oh man, no. But obviously with the year he had last year and this off-field stuff, it just feels kind of expected and like, yeah, okay. Like, this was an outcome that was possible, and this is the outcome that they decided to go with. I mean, how are you going to remember the Justin Tucker era with him as a member of the Baltimore Ravens?
For me, I had a unique experience and a unique insight with the Justin Tucker era in that, number one, it was his rookie year, and we were doing Torrey Smith's show on what was it, WBAL radio or 98 Rock. And so this young dude comes in, and we're sitting there, and I don't know if you remember Psy and Gundam Style,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
song, all time YouTube, I think over couple of billion views, which is just insane. But anyway, that song started playing, and like his personality just like boom came out, and I was like, whoa, this is a kicker. And he, like, I mean, his wit, his humor was like unrelenting. Like it was like gut laughing. And I was like, wow, if this dude is going to continue to kick and make game winning kicks and all the things, he's going to be a superstar here in Baltimore. And sure enough, you saw it. Like he blew up. Obviously, part of the Super Bowl winning Baltimore Ravens 12 team, and you saw just his level of play when they were in their kind of their dark years of trying to score. Justin was Mr. Reliable, and I think people just came to recognize number 9. Um, that is the lens as far as just his charismatic personality and his talent.
It's the situation and conversation of Justin Tucker showed up in so many big moments, but this is what have you done for me now lately, league? And, we could sit here forever and talk about all the big kicks Justin Tucker made over the course of his career, that double overtime win in Denver to send him to the AFC Championship his rookie season, the 66-yarder against Detroit, all those big time moments. And every time he walked onto the field, it was, man, Tucker's making this kick, big time pressure. You talked about that. You talk about a lot of time, Q, of like guys, you can't measure their hearts. Justin Tucker, that pressure never seemed to get to him until this past season. And it felt like it was kind of a shift. And like, instead of every time Tucker comes out there and you think, okay, he's going to nail this, it kind of became, oh, I don't know. Is he on? Is he not? And he had a pretty poor year. And then again, with the allegations staring him in the face here, it was a decision that Baltimore had to make. And now Tyler Loop comes in. Q, he's a rookie. You talk all the time, and you've talked all the time about how this Ravens team, and I agree with you, needs win now players. Trusting the kicker position to a rookie is a big risk the Ravens are taking. Now, you mentioned Randy Brown. He is the talent evaluator of all talent evaluators when it comes to the kicker position. He knows he knows his stuff. He knows what he's talking about. This team is placing their full trust into Tyler Loop, who has an NFL-ready leg. He's able to come in and not have the competition looming over us. I don't know, who knows, could have been a good or a bad thing. I know there have been conversations. Some people think Tucker there would have been good for him or would have been bad for him. But the Ravens have wholeheartedly put all the eggs into the Tyler Loop basket. How much of a risk is that for them who, we don't know. Tyler Loop is a wild card for everybody right now. We don't know. Do you think that this is a risk that the Ravens at this point could have afforded to take? Because yes, the off-field stuff and the on-field stuff for Tucker, there was a real reason for cutting him and letting him go. And that honestly was a decision a lot of people, myself included, were expecting. But now with a rookie in the fold, is that the way you would have gone, or would you have tried to go more veteran?
I think when you look at what the Ravens have historically done, like I said, Billy Cundiff, they really liked him. They had other guys that they brought in, and bringing those other guys in, you always had competition. But sure enough, Justin Tucker was like, all right, bet I'm up to the challenge. I think it was interesting when you look at the rookie minicamp, and there's really, I mean, honestly, there's really not much you're going to take fully away from there. It's, low-hanging fruit. You got this gorgeous backdrop of trees and, outside of some construction noise that's going on at the castle, a drill or, some hammer every few minutes or so. I mean, it's just this beautiful, like, we're out here playing football. This is great. So he was kicking, meaning Tyler Loop. And in that, I did hear the power of his kick. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting, because the other guy that was there, I don't recall his name, he was kicking. It was like, all right, yeah, it's a good kick, whatever. He's like, boom. but you heard it like just coming off the foot of Loop. And man, I'm telling you, like Randy Brown must have been like, oh, I've seen enough. I don't need to worry about all this. And I thought, Jeff Zrebeck, brought up a good point in one of his uh, tweets on X where he was like, Justin's, locker room presence is larger than life. And, why sit there and, try to make things tough for your kicker when you got another guy who's, not necessarily stressing outwardly, but I'm sure that there are some certain feelings that he might have and all the things. And it's better just to go ahead, cut bait with him and, just feel like, all right, we're just going to move on. And so Luke was out there showing that straight kick and making pretty much the ones that I've seen, and I pretty much saw them all, I don't think he missed. Again, doesn't mean anything because there's no pressure whatsoever. But there was the pressure of like, all right, well, let me just show you what I got. And he did. And that's all we can go by. So I think it was an easy decision. It wasn't like he was like 5 of 9 and maybe we'll just keep Justin around. I think homeboy was, from the kicks that I saw, looked like he was perfect and looked like he was very coachable as far as what Randy wanted him to do.
Oh, it's a good start. And Loop at Arizona obviously had the 62 career long against Houston. There have been clips of him circulating, hitting 65, 70, 75-yard field goals, obviously in those non-pressure situations like you're talking about, just in warm-ups or drills or whatnot. But over the course of his career at Arizona, 83.8% career field goal percentage for him. Past 2 years, 79.2 and 78.3. He went 19 of 24 in 2023. And he went 18 of 23 in 2024. So, again, pressure, weight of the world on Tyler Loop's shoulders right now. The Ravens making this decision now for a couple of different reasons. We're going to get into that in the second part of the show because them releasing Tucker before the NFL investigation was concluded is a pretty big tone shift from what some people in the organization were saying beforehand. So be sure to stay tuned for that, as well as another reason why they could have done this now, and a lot more coming up on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Now, I'm a big Denver Nuggets guy, and so the Nuggets, they beat the Clippers in 7. They play the Thunder tonight. Game hasn't happened yet, but the Nuggets currently 10.5-point underdogs on the road on FanDuel against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So if you want to cook up maybe a Nuggets same-game parlay, you could maybe go with Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, maybe Russell Westbrook if you want to get spicy for a Denver Nuggets. Maybe you want to go over on points for all of those players. So you could also bet $5 on that, $200 in bonus bets. That could add to the excitement. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make everyone more FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher and Qadry Ismail talking with you on this Tuesday edition of the show. Big news out of Baltimore on Monday. The Ravens releasing Justin Tucker, ends a 13-year era, and certainly ends with a thud considering his 2024 year and the allegations he is facing right now. Now, Q, the allegations, that NFL investigation has not been concluded, but the Ravens have, before this, but they've been pretty maintaining the fact that they would wait on a decision until the NFL finished their investigation. That was about a month ago. Sashi Brown, the team president, said that they would wait. John Harbaugh has said that Tucker's been at the facility. They've been in communication with Justin Tucker. And Harbaugh, when asked about, Luke versus Tucker, this was during rookie minicamp, said you can't make any decisions based off of that, meaning the allegations and the investigation. He said every decision we make has to be based on football. There's a lot of layers to that. You've got the rookie kicker in here. We took him in the 6th, early in the 6th round. He's a talented guy just from a football standpoint, salary cap, all different things you take into consideration. Whatever we decide to do over the next few weeks would be based on football. The Ravens were consistent. Q and what they said. Eric DeCosta released a statement saying sometimes football decisions are incredibly difficult, and this one is one of those instances. Considering our current roster, we have made the tough decision to release Justin Tucker. Justin created many significant and unforgettable moments in Ravens history. His reliability, focus, drive, resilience, and extraordinary talent made him one of the league's best kickers for over a decade. We're grateful for Justin's many contributions while playing for the Ravens. We sincerely wish him and his family the very best in this next chapter of their lives. I mean, personally, Q, I think it's pretty hard to believe this was only a football decision. That is what the Ravens are clearly taking the stance of. Now, a lot of people have put 2 and 2 together and are speculating that the Ravens are framing it this way because they don't want to face a possible grievance, possible wrath from the NFLPA in saying anything about an investigation that one is not concluded yet. And it just seems to me like Tyler Loop has accelerated this process for them. The Ravens will also save greater than $4 million by designating him as a post-June 1 cut. So, Q, there are a lot of layers to this. There are a lot of layers to it. John Harbaugh said that, but I think the layers, they both, I think, have to do on and off the field. And look, I think if the Ravens do want to avoid all the NFLPA stuff, then this is the route they needed to take, but they've certainly faced some heat for approaching it this way.
Well, language is language in the world of contracts and the NFL, and how you can see one thing and think that, oh, this favors me. And again, language flips it around and you have it another way. And so we've all been there. When I say we, I'm talking about all the former players. When you get that letter and say that based upon your performance, we're going to let you go. And technically, if you look at Justin Tucker's performance, it's hard to disprove that he was let go because of his performance. So, yeah, even though people can say what they want to say on the outside as far as what happened with the allegations and the ongoing investigation, we could talk about that for forever, but he's no longer on the team. And the Ravens made their decision to see that there was an out, strategically use that to their advantage. Bye-bye, Justin Tucker, Tyler Loop. The king is dead. Long live the loop. Now we're in the loop. Let's loop it up. Loop, 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 loopity loop, 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 loop.
That's how it is. Tyler Loop is the new guy. The Loop Troop. The fan base name, the Loop Troop, is I think what people are going with here. So again, that is all pure speculation right now. Obviously, there's been no confirmation, and I'm sure there will not be any confirmation on that because the Ravens are, if they do want to avoid all that stuff, then they have to maintain that this was a football decision. It seemed like this was set up, from John Harbaugh saying, all right, football decision, this, and then Eric DeCosta keeping that same tone. We'll just, again, Baltimore's just trying to put this behind them, it feels like. And, you're right. You can't really argue the fact that Tucker's participation in the season and role and how they lost some games in his performance. I mean, there's a very big argument for it being a football decision, but is it all a football decision? I guess we'll never know unless something comes out, maybe 10 years, some maybe documentary or whatever will come out, and then we'll maybe get all of the, all the details. But accusers have also stepped up and stepped forward here after the release. An article here, the Baltimore Banner, Gianna Hahn, Jonah Schaefer, and Julie Sharper, this coming just a couple hours after the release, or last updated a couple hours after the release. One of the accusers stepping forward, and after the statement from Eric DeCosta and everything along those lines, one of the accusers apparently said that the Ravens are cowards as well for the messaging that they put out. And, obviously, Q, there's still a lot to unpack there. The NFL has not finished their investigation. I don't know when that's going to conclude. I don't know if a team's going to pick up Justin Tucker or not after the allegations. That investigation on them concludes, whether they find stuff or not. That might have decisions as to what they do, but this is a what have you done for me now lately league. Tucker didn't perform well in 2024. You have the allegations. I know there was some speculation about when this could happen, with them being able to save money with it as well, not having Tucker in the building for Tyler Loop to, I don't want to say hinder his development, but just as you mentioned what Jess Rebeck said, to have that larger-than-life presence. I think the Ravens, they couldn't keep 2 kickers. if they were to try to cut Tyler Loop and keep him on the practice squad, well, I don't think he'd make it to the practice squad because I think there are other teams that are going to be interested. This was a situation where I think they had to either get rid of Tucker and start a new era, or just realize that they wasted a 6th-round draft pick, and Tyler Loop, if they cut him, was not going to make this roster because I think he's going to be too good, and he is too good for a team to pass up on that, even if it is making him their new kicker. Plus, we saw teams go on that. Well, it was a mini kicker run, I guess. The Patriots took a kicker a couple picks before the Ravens did. I think they wanted their guy. And it's just a lot of people talking about how Baltimore handled the situation. I think for a lot of people, it makes sense why they did it this way. Some people like it, some people don't. It just feels like a lot of the responses have been different for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, Tyler Loop comes in as a rookie with a ton of expectations, but you know what, Q? Justin Tucker came in as a rookie with a lot of expectations, and guess what? As you mentioned earlier in the show, he propelled that Ravens team. He was a part of that Super Bowl team, so I'm not counting Tyler Loop out. He has the leg. It's just going to be a matter of can he kick in those high-pressure moments? You said, rookie minicamp, he looked awesome, but, if you can't do it with 3 seconds left in Pittsburgh with those terrible towels waving in that 20-degree weather in December, well, that's a different story than hitting 65 and 70 yarders in, 60, 70, 80-degree weather.
Yeah, the thing is, what made Justin so incredible, again, the accuracy came about because he changed up his technique to have a straight ball. That wasn't the norm in the league. And so you could go to Pittsburgh. You could literally, it didn't matter, like Three Rivers converging right there. Next thing you know, so what? Justin's kicking it right through the uprights because of the wind, because of the dew, because of the way in which the moisture in the air didn't matter. I was standing under the goalpost for a few of those Steeler game-winning kicks that Justin had. At the same time, Cleveland, I was standing under the goalpost so many times when Justin Tucker was sitting there, and it is just kicking it right through the upright, and it's like, wow, this is phenomenal. Didn't matter. Like, one of the reasons why they, meaning the Ravens, loved Joe Flacco so much when they were scouting him, because they were like, they needed an all-weather type arm in the AFC North. And Joe had the arm talent to be able to handle all kind of conditions. Same with Justin Tucker. Now here comes Tyler Loop. And I think, well, whatever they call the snapper, holder, and the loop, maybe that's what they're going to call them, the loopers. And in the loopers, they're going to have that system down pat. And I think that is good that they got rid of Justin, because there's a bonding that has to happen with the loopers to make sure that Tyler is ready to kick. And so Jordan and Nick, they're going to have to be the loopettes and get in the same mind frame and mindset for Tyler and figure out what he likes and doesn't like, and what is his practice habits like. What is it that he likes to do? Because I think that's something that, people just think it's just the kicker, but it's a, triumvirate. And that's something that I know the Ravens are going to be looking at. How can they develop Nick and Jordan to help Tyler now be a part of what the Ravens historically, from Matt Stover to even present day, with now the former Raven and Justin Tucker. But how can he now put himself and stamp his legacy as the team that owns the kicking space? So we'll see. I think the Loop, he's in good hands. I think the Loopers, they're ready to welcome him with open arms. And then I think the Loop Troop is ready to cheer him at M&T Bank because it's double threes. I like how, at first I looked at his jersey. I was like, 33 looks kind of weird. But then I saw he was wearing it in college. I was like, hey, you trying to, get a 3? Good. You trying to get another 3? Good. You also need an extra point there too. So threes abound. Let's go ahead and get it.
You know, you mentioned it. The Wolfpack is now officially all gone. There's no more Morgan Cox, Sam Cook, and Justin Tucker. Tucker was also the last remaining member of the Ravens 2012-2013 Super Bowl team. There's nobody left on the roster from that team now that Tucker is gone. So it is a new era in more ways than one. Tyler Loop with a lot of pressure on his shoulders. But again, I'll keep reiterating, Tucker was in that same spot 13, 14 years ago. And you know, it worked out pretty well for the Ravens last time they had a rookie kicker because they won on and they won the whole thing. So coming up, we'll round out our Tucker Loop conversation and get into some of Q's rookie minicamp takeaways from some of the other guys in that draft class and maybe some undrafted gems the Ravens could have struck gold with. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot coming up on Locked On Ravens. First, the show was brought to you by Skylight. Say goodbye to sticky notes, scribbled plans on the fridge, and overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight Calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. The sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, Google, Apple, Outlook, and more, making it simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, and reminders all in one easy-to-see place. Now, for me, there can be a lot of I don't know in life. I know that's certainly something I have to deal with, of maybe what's for dinner or what are my plans for the day. Skylight can eliminate all of that, and you can assign everyone their own color, which helps a ton with organizing out and not getting confused on who has what assignment. So right now, Skylight's offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. Go to skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/NFL. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher, Qadry Ismail, still breaking things down with you from a Ravens perspective here on Tuesday. Appreciate everybody for being with us today. You know, Q, there are a lot of new faces that come in and go out every single year. Old faces leave, new faces come in. For Justin Tucker, it's the end of an era. Tyler Loop will be Baltimore's new kicker. Again, this is a post-June 1 designated release as well. So Baltimore used their first post-June 1 release on Marcus Williams. Justin Tucker is the second, so he'll still carry a 4.2 or 4.5-ish million dead cap hit in 2026. But 2025, they're going to save about $4.2 million against the cap. And it just felt like it was time for Justin Tucker. You know, I think the kicker selection of Tyler Loop probably did accelerate this process. And, you know, I'm sure they went into this draft having circled him or circled a couple of different guys. And I don't know the timing of it and where things changed because, again, the message from the organization was, hey, we're going to let the investigation play out and then we'll make a decision. But clearly the investigation is not over. The Ravens have already made their decision. And Jess Rubeck noted that, you know what, the Ravens will have to answer for that. But it's hard not to believe that Tyler Loop probably influenced this. And I think this is about as big of a vote of confidence as you could have gotten from the Ravens organization if you're Tyler Loop. But then there's that speculation of, like, would Tucker have hurt or helped Loop in his development? I mean, he's obviously his career accolades are unquestionable. Do you think that it would have helped Loop having Tucker in the building, learning from him from an on-field perspective? Or do you think that Loop just kind of needed to be free and kind of have the job to himself to learn and to grow?
Well, I know this, that kickers have their own routine. They have their own way of going about things. And I don't think it would have helped Tyler that Justin Tucker was in the building, and Justin is not going to groom his replacement. I'm not giving you my years of insight on what it's like to kick down at the ball. I'm not going to talk to you about how to go on the road and handle the first quarter compared to the fourth quarter of Pittsburgh. Like, that's just not going to be it. You want to go ahead and kick up in Detroit? You think that it's all farts and giggles because it's indoor? All right, go ahead and try it. Let's see how it all works out for you. I think the big thing is that we saw that, and in seeing that greatness, well, there had to be a holder, there had to be a snapper, and there had to be rhythm. I think for Randy Brown and the way in which he teaches it and goes through the process of it all, you need Nick and you need Jordan to be on the same page. And yes, they're the loopers. they gotta be in lockstep with him. Could you imagine? Like, I am doing this for Justin and not doing it for Tyler, or if I am, I feel some type of way. Let's just move away from the distraction. Let Randy Brown coach him up. Let the immense shadow that is Justin Tucker, let it leave the building and allow Tyler Loop to be in a loop on all things that needs to be when it comes to, well, the Lupettes doing what they need to do to help him establish himself as the next great Ravens kicker.
Yeah, just felt like it was time. Feels like they have a lot of trust in Tyler Loop. Certainly a risky decision based off of the Ravens. Like, this is a Super Bowl or bust year for them, in my opinion. And, you don't want to keep wasting Lamar's prime years. But, Tyler Loop is someone that has the NFL leg. The Ravens clearly love those strong leg kickers. And, hopefully things will kind of be brought back to what it felt like with Tucker in those early to mid years, even the later years of his career, where, Loop with that leg will be able to trot out on the field and you'll be able to say, all right, this is going in. Because that was such a valuable tool. Never really felt like the Ravens were out of field goal range once they passed the opponent's 40-yard line, because you had Justin Tucker sitting on your sideline and you could try a 62-yard field goal before the half with 3 seconds left and have a real shot of it going in. And we saw the Ravens win so many close games. And yes, the on-field performance in 24, even 23 with the 50-yarders, that was bad. The allegations and all that, but Justin Tucker won the Ravens a lot of ball games, and Tyler Loop, that is going to be his responsibility. You said he looked good during rookie minicamp. Who else to you, Q, looked good during the minicamp for Baltimore? What were some of your other observations?
Well, the big thing, you take away is that they're in shorts, and part of the practice is no helmets, and you're out there trying to get used to the process. So for me, looking at the defense, looking at the linebackers, I thought Mike Green, looked like a stud. Okay, great. But there's no real one-on-ones or anything along those lines to kind of size him up. But he looked like, okay, at least he looked, if you want to look. He looked, wow, boy, you look good. When it came to some of the receivers and just catching the ball, I thought LeJohntay Wester looked sharp, looked smooth, looked polished. I thought his spatial awareness, his ability to catch and get up the field was there. Offensive line, some of those dudes, they looked a little smallish. And, I was like, Coach Warhawk, he was getting after it. And what you expect, from Coach Warhawk, but yeah, they were doing their thing. But I think it was interesting when they did a little bit of teamwork. It was Pennings, who undrafted rookie free agent.
Yeah.
Like, I liked him. I liked him a lot. I thought, they had him listed as guard, but he was playing left tackle. And so you're always looking for depth. You're always looking for that swing guy, the next McCary, and seeing what, a guy like, McCary can do is just play across the line and play for a long time. Well, I think we might have had the potential to at least explore the option and see how it all unfolds, because he was like, you saw the heavy hands and you saw his footwork was solid, and it just seemed like he was comfortable. Like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do.
And you know what? The Ravens have had that history of finding undrafted guys, and they signed Joseph Noteboom, so maybe a bit more of an uphill battle for a guy like Penning to make the roster. But, we see the Ravens throw some of these guys on the practice squad, give them opportunities the next year, or in the case of an injury, could get called up. So you're right. You're not taking too much away from rookie minicamp, but it's good to see everybody out there and just getting used to the whole flow of things, as you talked about there, Q. But I appreciate you as always. Thank you for hopping on, talking football with me. As always, Q, I know you're busy in missile training. Tell everybody what you got going on over there and what else you're working on.
Yeah, so it's missiletraining.com. Missiletraining.com is where you can locate me, find me, interact with me. And yes, it doesn't matter. Human movement, sports performance, age 85 all the way down to youngest 6 years old. Doesn't matter. If you play a team sport, I got you. If you play an individual sport, I got you. If you're not in the state, don't worry. We can do virtual. Do it all the time. Been doing it for the last half decade. And I promise you, you will get every bit of your talent and then some. It will be brought out. You will be able to move better, move freer. Missiletraining.com. But you can also find me, WJZ, where all the Purple shows are happening. Purple Playbook, Purple Pregame. We're going to change some things up on the Purple Pregame show. So it's going to be exciting to go into this year and really just, I think, have a greater presence there. But then every single week, it's the L to the O to the R, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher and I, we break it down for you, and we get into the weeds as far as, yes, the offseason speculations and guessings, all the way into the season and what things are looking like week to week with the Ravens. Check us out. You don't want to miss it.
No, you do not. And you don't want to miss Q over at Missile Training either. So be sure to go hit him up over there and get your movement right. Q will get you right with the movement. So links will be in the description down below. Q, I appreciate you as always. And thank you to everybody who watched and listened today to Locked On Ravens. Of course, we'll be back here tomorrow talking more Ravens football. So on the way out, hit the like and subscribe button in video form, follow along in audio form, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.